um, of the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing. And I over from a group called the Housing Alliance, which meets over at the Rochester Foundation Wednesday mornings, the third Wednesday of the month, second Wednesday of the month. And anybody who's interested in housing can attend. And it's the builders and the realtors and local workers in the city and the county. And they exchange a lot of ideas, and you really learn a lot. So I suggest you might this week at 10 o'clock. And also with it is Ruth Flash. I could think was from more recently New Home, but now lives here, and it was really very effective for JoMarie. And JoMarie really knows everything about housing. We're so lucky to have portion talks and upcoming events. Tuesday, 11:30. If you are interested at all, the statue for Amelia Witherstein is going to be unveiled in Central Park, the southeast corner, at 11:30. Not enough money for that. It's the least put in $1,000 to Christmas ago. So it's ready to go. So that's the next thing coming up. After Christmas, January 14th, if you are available at noon hours and can get to the library for 55 minutes. We start exactly at noon and we're done at 5 minutes to 1, so you can get free parking. Ramp at the library. And we are working with the library on something called a lunch with local leaders. Bring your own lunch. We have lemonade for you. And this, we already had kept the kennel in October. And this person is going to be Randy Schubert, who's the chair of the city council. And so we asked them to speak for 15 to 20 minutes, and you can ask any questions you want. And the great thing about the last one is our president asked about registering voters in high school. And the league has not had the connection to be able to do that for several years. Can't be tells about make that work. After that, January 31st, we do a review of the league positions. As you're new to the league and want to learn about that, we do that. Remember Jane Callahan's house, who was kind of on the committee. It's a beautiful place to go on a Saturday night. So that's what's coming up. Now comes our main program. Appreciate so many of you folks coming out on the chilly day to learn about our housing community. Again, JoMarie Morris from the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing. Let me tell you a little bit about the coalition for folks who aren't familiar with it. It's a cross-sector organization of the city, the county, Rochester Area Foundation, Destination Medical Center, and Mayo Clinic all coming together. Our mission is to collaborate, invest, and lead on innovative solutions in their community's housing needs. And then you just heard from Amy about the Housing Alliance. The Housing Alliance is facilitated by the leadership of the coalition and really is the community arm of the coalition. So, right, we have these 5 organizations that provide funding decisions to create and preserve housing. And we learn from data we have that I'll be talking about shortly, but we also do a lot of outreach in the community to really learn what's going on in the community and try to get an idea of what some of those gaps are so we can invest in those areas that are most needed. Again, like Amy said, we have business leaders, we have government leaders, we have leaders in accessibility, we have leaders in sustainability, we have architects, we have developers, finance folks, everyone that has really a piece in housing attend these meetings, a really open dialogue. We generally have some kind of information in each meeting. And then sometimes we always have a roundtable of kind of discussion, but sometimes more in-depth roundtable discussion. This meeting that's going to be next Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 a.m. It's at the Rochester Area Foundation in the community room, and you can either attend via hybrid or in person. We generally have about 40 people attending, about half via Zoom and about half in person. And this meeting is going to be about sustainability and particularly vulnerable areas in the community around environmental justice
and there's going to be someone from MPCA that's going to be speaking. And then we're just going to have a roundtable discussion around 2026. What's your takeaway in housing for 2026? And so we'll be going around the room and really discussing that together as well. So we'd love to have any of you join us. If you're interested, please reach out to me. Please let me know. Please let Ruth know. We're happy to send you that Zoom link and just attend whenever you're able. It's also one that's you can attend when you can. If you're out of town, don't worry about it. It's just really a great drop in. So about 2020 was the last in-depth study that we did, Maxville study, the coalition commissions, to really look at our housing needs in Olmsted County. And after 2020, the coalition really dug down to say, okay, based on all that information of what we've learned in the community, what are our biggest gaps? And this is how we came to the coalition priorities. These are the coalition's 5 priorities that really have been our North Star for the last 5 years. To increase affordable home ownership options, increase BIPOC home ownership. We know we have one of the most disparate situations with home ownership between Black and white in the nation. I think the 5th worst. We have 77% white home ownership in Olmsted County versus 22% Black home ownership. So we want to work on that. We want to increase our senior housing options because we know that fully 1/3 of all of our housing needs relate to senior housing. We wanted to increase rental housing for folks that are below 50% area median income, either individual or family. That area median income is kind of confusing for folks, but basically it changes every year. It puts out a new number. This is the average income for the area. Right now, that's $125,600 for a family of 4. And then finally, we want to preserve that affordable housing that we already have in the community. We don't want to lose that. We don't want some of those 4-plexes and 6-plexes that have very reasonable rent, that are still in pretty good condition to be renovated, purchased by investors, and the rent's going from $700 to $1,500 a month, and all of those folks being displaced. So that's another one of our social good. So most recently, we commissioned a 2025 housing study, and we spent some time comparing the 2020 study with the 2025 study. Amy will send you a copy of this presentation. On the very first slide, there's a link to the full 333 wonderful pages if you're interested in reading the whole thing, along with a summary. But what we did again is looked at the new data, looked at the old data. What did we learn? Well, there's some great things that we learned. One of the most exciting things that we learned is that over the last 5 years, the coalition together, that cross-sector organization invested $20 million to create over 1,000 different housing units. And more than that, there's just been an incredible collaborative effort between the city, the county, local developers, launching 20 different programs and policies to really help streamline housing. Because we know that there's a huge urgency to get some of these housing units built. And then we also know and have found that between the work that Destination Medical Center has been doing, and now with the most recent Bold Board Unbound investment from the Mayo Clinic, we know that we have the eye of developers, not only locally, but regionally and across the nation, that are considering doing building in Rochester like never before. And because of that, we have a really robust pipeline of projects that I'll tell you a little bit more about. And we also know that despite the fact that we're continuing to grow in Olmsted County, based on the work that we have done collaboratively, we've been able to decrease the demand for affordable housing by 26% compared to what we've done in 2020. And then finally, I just want to highlight that so much of the success that we have had and how we have been able to move the needle has really been in this really intensive collaboration. So the 2025 study geographics, a little bit different than the 2020 study, and I just want to point this out briefly again for someone who would want to read all 332 pages and learn more. But basically, we pulled out is it a destination medical center district because of all the changes happening there that wasn't there before. We added a Chatfield submarket, and then we moved Pleasant Grove Township to the Stewartville area, which made more sense. So it's not exactly apples to apples when you look at the two different studies, but they're pretty close. So what did we learn as of 2025 needs enough? We learned that currently 64% of all households in Olmsted County are 1 to 2 people. Now, I'm a farm kid who grew up near Byron, not far from Oxford Park, in an older farmhouse with my 5 siblings, and we had 1 bathroom and multiple levels and really nasty stairs. Anybody remembers growing up with those? But it's just way different than it was then. I mean, it's again 64%. There's so many more people that are either seniors living alone, or 2 people, or there's empty nesters now, or there's never nesters. People that decided not to have children. So what a home looks like is really kind of being redefined. Also, growth in the DMC district. I think this is really exciting. Growth for residential population in the DMC districts has doubled in the last 10 years, or will be doubling by 2030. Senior population is really driving growth, like I said before. And 80% of all of our growth in Olmsted County is happening right in the city of Rochester. Here's a little breakdown of where we are with rental housing. We are in need of an additional 5,000 units of rental housing in the next years. That said, we've been able to decrease our demand for affordable rental by 1,200. We have 2,500 units currently in the pipeline, and that is really 1,000 of those units are really home ownership. 1,500 or so of those units are specifically for rental. So really that demand goes from 5,000 to about 3,500 units. So again, that pipeline that we were talking about. We also know that the vacancy rates continue to go down. So the blended vacancy rate for rental properties right now is only 3.1%. To have a robust rental opportunity available for folks to be able to find places to live, 5 to 7% is really what we want to see, and it's down to 3.1%. And then there's the breakdown of the needs too, right? So we need all types of housing for the demand. We need, 10% subsidized. Those are for, Section 8 vouchers or other types of subsidized housing. Affordable housing, about 25% of the demand. Affordable housing could be anything where the contract rent is a little bit less. That could be you need to make 50% or below AMI, you make 80% or below AMI, that all fits within that category. And then the rest, 65% we need is market rates. Because the entire continuum of housing is impacted by market rate rentals and subsidized and affordable types. So the more market rate we have available, the more we have opportunity for folks to rent in those affordable spaces that people are renting. So again, just this pipeline of housing. We have a lot more work to do. We know that almost 1/4 of all households in Rochester make $50,000 or less per year. And we know that if you make less than $50,000 a year, it's hard for you to even afford a 1-bedroom apartment in the city of Rochester. Now, for sale housing demand, we know that we need another 7,000 units in the next 10 years. Here's a breakdown of some of the other areas besides the city of Rochester, again, but the lion's share of units that are in demand are right here in the city of Rochester. We have made some progress. Again, folks are trying different types of housing to meet those 1 to 2 person household needs and many other of the needs that we were talking about. but we have much more work to do. We know that the price of a home has went up 63% in the last 5 years. 63%. We know that construction costs have went up 50%. I say this to some of the builders that we work with, and they say they think it's higher than that. That is more than 50%. 75% of mortgages are already have a locked-in rate, and so many of the folks that had that first home, they're thinking about moving into their second home, that step-up home, are not moving because they have an interest rate of 3%. And why would you move if you have an interest rate of 3% and you're going to buy a home with 7% interest? Or if you have your home paid off, right? I'm in my 60s. I'm not going to take out a mortgage in my 60s. I'm just not going to do that. And so we need to think about alternate ways to really help in all areas of housing. Again, the senior housing market, I was telling you that the vacancy rate for all housing for rentals is 3%. Here for senior housing, the rates are average 2.0%. So even less is the bottom line for all these kinds of housing. Everything from subsidized to affordable to market rate to owners, independent living, assisted living, memory care. All of those are needed. And the net of all of those is a 2% overall vacancy rate. Again, that's why we're really focusing on senior housing. We have made some progress. We have work to do, but we've made some progress. There's less demand for affordable housing from our last study for seniors. We also have a lot of great projects in the hopper right now. We had the Trailside Apartment that was done by Olmsted County that was recently completed, 36 apartments for low-income seniors. We have the North Civic Center as Aeon project that will be a total of about 150 more units, everything from 30% AMI and some high priority homeless units for seniors, all the way up to 80% AMIs. Yes, what's AMI? Area median income that I talked about before, that was 125, sorry. Yes, it's legal. Area median income. Yeah. So all different levels of senior housing. And then finally, we have a project that we've been working on with Bigelow Homes that's well underway to create 44 twin homes for seniors that are modestly priced and have good accessibility and are much more affordable than what we had been seeing. So we have, again, we are making some good progress, but we have more work to do. Again, I just wanted to highlight a little bit about it. I told you that there were 20 policies and procedures and programs that were launched over these last 5 years. And here's some of the ones that I think are the most important. First, the city of Rochester revised their Uniform Development Code. And that UDC makes all the difference in the world. So it allows us to build houses, townhouses in places we could never build them before. There were strictly one single family houses. That's it. That's all you built there. So a lot more diversity around the city, a lot more opportunity to use what's called infill. So if there's a lot that's sitting empty, we can do something different with that. So one of the great examples I can tell you is First Homes, our community land trust, recently finished a project last year for row homes. There was 2 lots with homes that had to be torn down that were in really bad shape, not far from the government center. And those were torn down, and they were able to build 6 row homes for 6 families in those 2 lots. And again, great location for families, really close to downtown to be able to walk to work if you work downtown. That's just one of those examples of that. The Rochester passed the local sales tax extension, and we're contributing $40 million of that sales tax extension funding towards housing, innovative housing solutions. And with that, they've also created the single family homeownership creation program, which we've also been able to leverage with some of our gap funding to really produce some great projects. Olmsted County has the Growing Affordable Inclusive Neighborhoods program. They use some of the funding from that to do some community land trust homes, some new single family homes there. And then develop that project I talked about for seniors, that low income housing tax credit project. Excuse the acronym again, there's a lot of those in this world, but they were able to do that in Olmsted County as well. And then the coalition has been able to do launch and some really great kind of pilot programs that have never been done before. So 2 years ago, we launched the BIPOC homeowner mentorship programs. I get rid of it. There we go. We launched the BIPOC homeowner mentorship program with Three Rivers Community Action that already has a really robust Achieve homeownership programs. And now that's being sustained by other funding. Very successful. Over half of the people that participated in that program have been able to purchase their first homes. And we are just getting ready to launch a senior housing transition mentorship program in collaboration with Family Service Rochester and Elder Network that will be starting in January, really to help those seniors who really want to transition to a different home, but really don't know where to start. So to provide a trusted resource for someone who's already been through it, whether it's been someone who's decided to sell their home and rent, whether it's someone who's decided to sell their home and move into something that's smaller, more accessible, easy to maintain, to help them do that as well. So really looking forward to working with those two organizations that really have deep experience working with our senior community to get that up and launched too. We're also doing things like looking at accessory dwelling units. Those are extra units you can put next to your own home. It can either be part of it, your home, or it could be separate. Again, it's the new code that allowed folks to be able to do that. This is kind of very slow going. They're very popular in California. It hasn't really happened here in Rochester, but it's something that we're looking at. And we were able to work with the Lake City Port Authority, who had gotten a grant had received a grant, and the city of Rochester also applied for the same grant and didn't get it. So the coalition put in funds along with the Lake City Port Authority to really put together these accessory dwelling unit designs that are out on the city website. So if somebody's interested in doing this ADU, they have a design that they can start with. So we'll save them money on that kind of initial concept drawing to know kind of what the city is looking for if they're interested in doing something like that. Want to just give you a little bit background information about what the coalition had done. So last year was definitely our most robust year. We invested almost $8.5 million on projects. We contributed to 11 different projects, all different types of projects. Total cost of those projects were $77 million. And that's when the hope is to provide homes for 285 households or up to 880 people. And here's kind of a breakdown of what our investments looked like last year. So we did 285 units total. 49 of them were specifically for seniors. And to me, one of the exciting things about these investments is that 30% or so was grants, 70% were short-term loans, 0% interest loans. We'll be coming back to the coalition so we can use those for other projects in the next couple of years. So to me, that's what's truly exciting, really trying to figure out, okay, is this an organization like the Community Land Trust that has the deep subsidy that will be there and be in perpetuity for 100 years that really needs a grant? Or is this a developer that just needs additional capital, short-term capital to build something that they might not build otherwise? And that's really what we've been doing for the last year and a half. Here's just some examples of our projects that we did in 2024. One project will be breaking ground next spring, and that's the Trotter Haven project, named after Jackie Trotter. I don't know I would hope many of you know who Jackie Trotter is. But this is a project that Three Rivers Community Action is doing. We provided a forgivable loan. The city provided funding for this too. And First Homes actually donated a lot for this project. This is also not far from the government center. Community Land Trust, we invested $2.5 million in 0% loans to do a lot of construction and also to provide some grants for these projects to keep them affordable again in perpetuity. One of the most exciting projects that they're working on is the multi-generations ownership opportunity. They're going to be doing 6 multi-gen homes, and they work with the BIPOC homeowner mentorship program and some of the folks that we would work with on that to really help shape the design of that. So things like making sure there's 2 separate parking areas, 2 different areas for the garages, 2 different entrances. All the first floor will be very compatible for either a senior or a disabled adult. And then the rest of the family can be upstairs. So there's some communal space, but there's also some separate spaces, 2 different laundries. So no one has to go up and down laundry. So anyway, very excited about those. And those will be, the first 2 will be completed sometime this coming summer. And we're hoping to do a tour of those when they're opened up. Then we also helped the Olmsted County purchase residents of Old Town Hall that they utilized for low-income housing opportunities for rent. And also it's been an area that they're considering trying to do something with recuperative care there. So the thought is use some of that space that they're not using or build it out a little differently. So it's Emerald Valley Medical and, the street medicine team can work with those folks that are getting out of the hospital that have no place to go whatsoever. And they can have some care there. It's a safe place. They know it's, and then they can help them transition to whatever the next step is, but someplace off of the street. So that's an exciting program. And then single family home ownership, we have projects in Yoda. We have a project in Dodge Center right now. The Coalition and Rochester Area Foundation and First Home Community Land Fund provides funding in a 30-mile radius. So sometimes beyond even Dodge County, we finished a home in St. Charles not long ago. And then the Furry Ridge project was a project that we did is really in collaboration with the city and some of their new funding that they've gotten for the sales tax extension. And again, what this is doing is really encouraging developers to build entry-level homes, right? Entry-level, more accessible, smaller homes that really have not been built for over a decade or more. After the 2007 crash, it used to be that many of the developers would build a whole subdivision. The DeWitt families, the Bigelows, they would do a whole division of houses. So many developers and contractors lost everything in the crash, everything. Many of them are not even in existence any longer. And so they're a lot more risk averse to do something like that. So they're building 1, 2 houses at a time. So this is encouraging them to do more, 36 homes at a time. Prairie Ridge is going to be 202 homes. Going to be townhomes, regular single family homes, all kinds too. It's going to be some that are accessible. Some of the townhomes they're doing is like a 4-plex where there's on each end are 1-level townhomes that work all for seniors. And then in the middle are family townhomes that are 2 or 3 levels. So just some really kind of innovative housing solutions that have not been met in the past. The bottom line is, we've made progress, but we've got a lot of work to do. It's been just, again, exciting to see everybody really rolling up their sleeves and trying to figure out how we can do this together and who can do what piece to make something happen. To me, that's what's really been exciting about our work. I'm open for questions. Folks have any questions about all of this information? Again, we'll send it off.
I live in the whole thing. The project east of us has a new 95 person development. Gramercy. Gramerson's across the road, and this is on this side of the road. But there's a 300 unit rental that backed out from Ohio on the backside of that protocol.
Lennar or?
I'm not sure what the name was. My memory forgets.
Okay, there's a lot going on.
But that kind of thing is well, as one city council person said at lunch yesterday, that's a terrible road situation because it belongs to the city and the county, and who knows, the sidewalk, new sidewalk goes around the poles, the electric poles. All sorts of kind of things. Have you counted that kind of thing in your statistic?
So I'm only counting the ones that we provided investments for.
Okay.
We haven't provided investments for the project that you're talking about.
Thank
Those are down above and beyond what we do. Yeah, the pipeline stuff, yeah.
I'm just curious, like what I hear sometimes about affordable housing makes it so hard is the ratio and like having funds that you can put in and for and it's hard to do all the like they we have some different grants.
The compliant, you are a little right on it.
So I'm wondering if you guys have found a way to avoid that or streamline it or just curious.
That is an amazing question. I couldn't say it more. I mean, I'm an attorney. I practiced law for 20 years. And so I'm about, thinking about risk and compliance. But at the same time, it makes me sad when I see the low-income housing tax credit project and the amount of stopped funds that are used in order to make that happen. Because many of them, like you said, have what we call capital stack, where it has so many sources. 15 different sources. It could be local, it could be state, it could be regional sources, and they all have different compliance mechanisms. So having the lawyers and administrators and the people trying to track that and make sure that happens adds probably 20 to 30% on the cost of the project. And so it's really tough. So one of the things that we've been doing, for example, the most recent investment we made is for a project that's going to have 50 affordable home ownership options that are townhomes, a 12-unit apartment, workforce apartment, and a child development center in Southeast Rochester. And we're doing that in collaboration with the cities. The cities are also doing TIF, providing TIF funding and some other funding. But in doing that project, I've been working with the city team to find out what their compliance pieces are so that we can make sure that they're the same. So that makes it easier for these projects to not only happen, but for them to be successful because we want them to be successful. So we're doing our best for that. I think the country has a long ways to go. I guess my other thought about that, again, as an attorney, I get the fact that we want compliance, that we want to have checks and balances. And I think the majority of the time, most of these compliance rules come out of a place of, good intentions, very good intention. We want to make sure that things are done right and safely, and we're having good health standards, all of those things. So I think they come with good intentions, but I think people have no idea how complicated it is. So again, we're doing little pieces of that here. I would love to see the country do more of that together in some way. Also, I would say too about those projects that do cost more. I would also say, with some of that too, the state of Minnesota has a very strong building code, like one of the best in the nation. And these projects are good projects. They're not going to fall down. In fact, Chris Flood from Three Rivers, who lived in Texas now and has been in various places in the country, but's been just a remarkable person that's done development work for Three Rivers for many years. He basically said at the Lions meeting, I'd much rather be in a low-income taxpayer project in Minnesota than in Texas. And it's going to cost more, but it's safer. It's going to stand. It's going to, So again, there's trade-offs with all of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Two questions. One's hopefully a really short one, and one a little bit more intense. Everything that I've seen with all the housing intensive is like downtown. And I get that. I think with the 4-year residency cycle is what's driven a lot of our weird housing situations in Rochester. My husband teaches at RCTC. I live in that area. Those students are starving.
Mm-hmm.
They are living in 10-foot single bedroom apartments. And I'm not seeing that you're actually contacting RCT teams, ones about their schools? Are those people that are being involved in that?
We actually have had numerous discussions with Rochester Public Schools a lot. And yeah, connection with all the community leaders. In fact, the SLAP project I'm talking to you about near Olmsted is southeast. And so, yeah, we're looking at that. And again, we have projects, majority of these projects that I told you about, with the exception of the 2 senior projects for rental, they're all out of the.
Yeah, just a lot of it is like, oh, we got to do QMR, we've got to do, which so the next big thing, we're pushing 20 years at this point. We've got to do all of this stuff to Mayo. We've got to do all of this stuff to people getting treatment down there. And the people who are making that $14,000 a year, oh, they're not downtown. They can't afford park down.
Well,
and work down.
And I'll be honest with you, it's not only are they not living downtown, many of them are living in Claremont or Mazeppa or somewhere else.
They're riding their bikes to work.
Right.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing that they are right. That so it's good. More complicated question.
Yeah.
So I live in one of the neighborhoods that was brought up there. You said neighborhood association is an interesting meeting if you get to go to those. Something that happens a lot in the neighborhood is we have a lot of elderly homeowners who cannot afford to sell. And then Medicaid look back, save all of their stuff when they finally are forced into a nursing home. And then the house is sold. And my neighbors are now not new families or people coming in. It's Black Swan, it's Infinity, it is a landlord. In some way, because I know this happens with farmlands in New Hampshire, this happens in farmland, small farm conservation. They just give funds to incentivize selling a single family home to a single family homeowner. Is that something that has been considered in the mix? Because that would be really helpful in my neighborhood to make sure that my neighbors are actually like people.
Yeah, no, that's also a great question. And I think that fair housing rules wouldn't allow that. To say we are only selling to these people. I mean, there's a lot of complexity around that. What I'm also saying is one of the things that we've also been doing is we talked about preserving the homes that we already have in the communities. One of the things that I've seen the city looking at now and the county really looking at is how can we enhance funding opportunities for rehab for some of these seniors so they're not left homeless. So some of these programs are grant, some of them are 0% interest loans, and they don't have to pay them back until the house is sold.
It's still not solving the when that house is sold. That cash offer coming in from the landlord is way over what a family can make.
That's place all over the country. I don't know if there's a solution to that. Would love to hear ideas. But even so, another thing that they might give you that. So the community land trust, we do funding for them. They try to do about 15 acquisition rehabs a year. So they acquire homes. So one of those senior homes. They are always on the market looking for homes that are affordable, that they can afford to put in the land trust. Many of them need work. And so, for example, there was an elderly couple that actually moved away, but that tree went through their house. The community land trust was able to buy it, but then put in over $100,000, added another bedroom and bathroom, and put that in the community land trust. And so I hear a lot, and I don't work directly with First Home, so we provide funding for them. But I hear from them a lot. They can't. It's very hard to compete to find those, because by the time they even see it's for sale, a lot of times someone, like you said, have a cash offer or something like that, and it's really hard to compete with. So I don't know what the solution is for that. Yes.
Well, have been considered any kind of like co-living program for seniors and college students or just, single people where, where the senior wants to stay in their home, need help, need that kind of thing. You have college students who can't afford an apartment or a single person who can't, if they could live together and, not be penalized when you're looking at government benefits and things like that, you're solving like two problems. And then when instead of that home, going to a Medicare leave and getting auctioned off, the agreement could be to have it in some kind of land trust or whatever where it houses somebody else in need.
we have had some discussions, and there's been some kind of innovative things done with community land trusts or something like that. I've also heard recently, and I haven't been able to get much more information on this, but different social services have just thought about doing some kind of pilot programs with essentially a boarding house, which would be, so an elderly person just want to live by themselves, would have a student living with them, would help them with some of the maintenance around the home, would have very affordable rent, very truly like the old boarding house days. And, whether that can happen, I'm not sure, but we are looking at those potential ideas because I agree with you. I think, and I also love the thought of multi-gen living. I mean, I think it makes so much sense to do that.
Well, and like when my grandmother, we needed that situation. It's like she wanted to pay her home, but she needed somebody else there with her. Like it was like free, helping,
Yeah.
And it just seemed like it would solve some problems. And then my other question regarding when you said you help some seniors like sell their home and then move to an apartment, you guys kind of take into the Medicaid nursing home aspect because like usually Medicare or Medicaid, if you need nursing home, you can exclude your private residence. But if you're renting, there's nothing to exclude. So then it's like everything you're gonna go.
So the Senior Housing Transition Mentorship, we're funding that, but it's Elder Network that's doing that in Family Service Rochester. So they're putting together that pilot program right now. And that's one of the examples I gave you that some of the folks that will be mentors are people that have left their homes that are renting. So we don't, basically we're a funders pledge. We give money to organization, mainly for bricks and mortar. But we also know that we really believe in innovative solutions in this, intensive collaboration. And so we have launched a couple of programs, including the Bipolar Mortar Mentorship Program and now the Senior Homes Ownership Program. And basically we're saying, okay, here's X amount of dollars for the next 2 years. We trust you. You know the senior community much better than we do. You have all that information. You work with folks every day. You put together an idea and they put together an amazing proposal to do this together. In fact, we put out a couple of requests for a proposal and they combined to put a proposal together so that they work together on it. So, yeah.
So my husband and I are discussing the future. And we
Never too early.
It's too early. And we have 4 kids and they're all concerned about never being able to afford a home and so forth.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, multi-generational housing, very. And I see it. And the things you talk about are really amazing. So I just followed your page on Facebook. And that's a good place to find information about these kinds of things where you're explaining what's going on.
Yes, and we also have a webpage too. With this on Rochester Area Foundation. So yes, Ruth is my go-to person. She's amazing. She started with us about 6 months ago, and I'll have to tell you this: the social media and that stuff is not my will.
Right.
So having Ruth being able to really talk about what we've been doing and help us learn, so that, and then also again the Housing Alliance meeting. Yeah, if you're able to attend those either in person or virtually, that is a great way to know what's going on.
So announcement about that will cycle through on your Facebook page.
Well, then we'll cycle that through on our Facebook page. We try to put that out there all the time, but yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And again, we also, the thing to keep in mind with the Housing Alliance is if there's a topic in housing that you're really interested in, we'd love to hear from you to say, hey, I haven't heard anything about this topic, or I've heard about this happening somewhere else in the country. Can we talk about that? For example, we heard about 3 employers in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, who was doing a project to build all these houses because they couldn't get employees to come there to Johnsonville, huge insurance. I think there's 4 different huge employers. And they did some really inventive stuff with their EDA there. And so we went there to Sheboygan, we checked it out, and then when my colleagues did a presentation about what was working and what wasn't working and some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that we might have from that. I'm telling you about the accessibility, the people who came talking about that, and right in the room, there were some realtors and some landlords who were taking notes and when we're going to charge them. Well, what do you need? Can we have a list? I mean, it's really this is a great meeting to go to because so many people in the room know the answers. It was an aha moment. Basically, what happened there was we had some folks from the disability community talk about the challenge of trying to get residents accessible park. The lack of accessibility for apartments and the challenges that they have. And then the discussion was, where do you go? If you go to apartments.com, they say nothing about accessibility. So you have no idea to say I want a 2-bedroom place, but you have no idea whether any of those apartments are accessible or not. And then we had landlords there, including Black Swan team, saying, we can't rent those ADA apartments because nobody wants them. What? What? So again, a big aha moment, and we actually put together with the Regional Quality Council is putting together a group of folks, including the city, that's working with some of our landlords now to see is there a ways that we could do something that will pair properties with accessibility so people can find them that when they're available. Because quite honestly, Blackmon says, we'll raise our hands. We want those to go to people that need them, but they're not applying. And and here we're hearing that there's a wait list for accessible apartments and 30, 40 people long. So again, yes.
Do you the project that you donate money to fund, do you have any accessibility requirement for the property? Because I strongly feel that all homes should be accessible. One day you're gonna need a wheelchair. So everything should always they need to be big enough to get a wheelchair, your a main level bedroom and bathroom. It just seems in this day and age, why would you ever build an inaccessible property?
The developers will tell you because they're a lot less expensive to build.
Well,
That said, I've had this. When we make our planning decisions, we spend a lot of time looking at that. And we get more points so that people get more points. And we encourage that. So for example, First Homes, almost all their homes that they're building now have what's called visibility standards. They're not required by law, but they are 0 entry, 1 bathroom and 1 bedroom on the first floor, always. Larger doors so that they can accommodate a wheelchair. And all of these apartments for seniors housing that we're going to be investing in that will be breaking ground next year, they're all universal design. So they're all accessible, every single one. So we look at that. We look at accessibility. We look at sustainability too. First Homes also just did a great project where it's a 0 energy home. So not only is it one level, but there's no utility cost for this small home that was just built. 0. In fact, there's going to be enough energy to produce to pay the extra fee that's now is required for solar power. So again, we're always looking at those things. We can't mandate them, but we can certainly encourage them and we should certainly use.
We talk housing, which part of it, but if it's like we have, what I live in is all houses, some are apartments, some church. There's nowhere to buy groceries. There's nowhere to go to the doctor. There's no bus service. Where there is bus service, people complain bitterly about their loud, even the electric ones, they're loud. What have you done kind of globally with these projects to make sure that it's not just, well, you have a place to live, but it's going to require that you have a car to get anywhere. If people can't, I'm sure to drive. And then you still have to have a place to park it. Oh, we're going to do electric. Well, that means you have to have different electric stuff in the car to access all of those other things you need to live besides your roof. What have you done to address that?
Well, again, that's what we look at as a project. We look at, is it located by transit? Is there an opportunity to have it located by transit? Is there better locations for particular project? But again, we do housing. But it's definitely a consideration. And I agree with you, that's an issue. I think that I feel like I'm really excited about rapid bus transit. I know that that's really hard on folks right now, all the construction things that are happening. But to me, it's super exciting to think at West Transit Village that this new project that we're going to have for low income seniors, that these seniors can walk out the door, get on the bus, get to Mayo, get downtown, and they are considering child development center there. They're considering putting in groceries. Again, making it really a village within a village. Because that's what we should have. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
People want to stay in their own home.
Yeah.
You got to move early. So you get to church, get to the grocery store, get to concerts, and learn how to do that. There are all sorts of lessons that homeowners need to learn when they begin to rent. Big question I'm facing, when do I give up my car keys? And what do I do?
I'm not going there with that one.
And just have to say you got to move earlier than you want to.
Well, I mean, again, what I've known, and I went through this unfortunately with my folks about 3 years ago who now live in assisted living. And super hard to them, super hard. When John was in a wheelchair full time, there's just absolutely no way they could live. And she couldn't get in the bathroom. It was bad. So all of those decisions are hard, and I think that the decisions too are not made in isolation. It's not just the senior; it is your family. It's a family decision, and we all need help. And the mentorship program that we're doing for seniors are specifically for seniors that really want to make a decision and want to make a move. So again, I'm hopeful that we're going to have more opportunities for rehab programs and other things for the seniors that do want to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can. That said, what I've also learned is that the longer you wait, you have a lot less choices if something tragic happens to you. So if you're hospitalized and you all of a sudden have 40 or 50 years of living in your home, the family farm I live in was multiple generations, and have to do that in an emergency type situation, it's a lot better to be able to plan on that, figure out what's important, talk about that with your family, and make those decisions earlier on. Because you have a lot less choices if you wait until this crisis. Is what I thought. Yeah.
I belong to the Sierra Club, and probably about a month or so ago, there was a statewide meeting in film. I don't know if it's just Sierra Club people there or not, but your comments about the complexity of putting together projects that have different rules and regulations and that meet the state's requirements. The meeting was about a software program that is being used in the state. I can't remember where, but it is being used and it's available at either very low cost or no cost to cities. And it allows developers to go in and plug in their information. And instead of going from one department to the next or one staff member to the next in various, whether it's the city or some other organization, it comes out with all the stuff they need to know much faster than if they go through the traditional process of getting approved for development. I can't remember the name of the software program, and some cities, as we know, a lot of people don't like to change, and they don't want to be the first ones to change, certainly. And what if this doesn't work? Because you always go to your worst outcomes first. And so they've kept the old model, but then they also make this new software program available to developers if they want to use it.
That's what fascinates.
I'll look. Chris Acuna is the coordinator, whatever you call it, for this Sierra Club here, and because I attended the Zoom thing, and Chris did too. One of the reasons Sierra Club, at least locally, is not making an issue of it with the city at this point is, as we know, the city has a lot of issues going on right now. And
Really robust development going on in our city.
and so this is probably not the time to suggest they use something new. Sometimes it seems like they have their hands full just managing what is. So, we're not lobbying for it or anything at this point, but I will find out the name of it.
No, it'd be interesting
And
to know. And I would tell you too, which is one of the things that I have loved about my work, is some of the getting up on the city and county gap and their efforts in collaboration, even though I know sometimes they're frowning. Amazing to me, the efforts that they're making to do change and to try to figure out the process and procedure that will streamline some of this.
Oh, sure. And I'm not denigrating.
Yeah, I'm
They're not things at all. But if there is, a way to shorten it up and pull together information.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. I think well, the AI is going to be, I don't even know.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing I was going to say was, we recently mentioned that was rehab programs, for seniors who are staying in their homes at least for now. And I know the county has always had some kind of a program for seniors. I think you had to be pretty low income in order to qualify for it. But some seniors, through no fault of their own, bought their houses relatively inexpensively by today's standards. And now the value of the house is, quadrupled. And so it's, people want to use the money they invested in their house, but not before they need it. And if they do have access to simple things like those chairs that go up and down the stairway, or I recently had to do some work on my front step because it was thinking and it was too steep for me to get in. Those things are all really expensive, but if you have a low cost way of doing it, because the trouble is, even if I sell my house, it's not going to be available to a first time home buyer likely. I don't know who's going to buy it, but it's not going to be the people who are making $20 an hour working at one of the hotels. And not that my house is so fancy, it's not. They've done just years.
I totally know that.
So anyway, that's I would strongly encourage, and then get people on. I'm sure you've got a very diverse collection of people on this group. People who are living in houses that you have made happen. I hope are, having some input.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the decisions that are being made.
Yeah, we've been, a lot of what we've been doing in our community both by bringing in community members to really inform what we're doing around thinkers, around the pipeline. And then honestly, that's problems I've never heard of before with this shit. It's phenomenal. And I know that we've made many decisions based on that.
Well, and going out to people, don't just have a meeting and invite them to your meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Go out to places. Yeah. If you have any more questions for JoMarie, you can go to these Wednesday meetings.
Yeah.
Before, or you can go online or probably give her a call. Go through, shoot it here. But before you leave, you can see there's a lot left. I put out the page. So basically, something home for your breakfast.